Um, Alrighty. Hi guys, welcome to the Baited Expectations podcast. I'm piebypie. I'll just quickly introduce myself and then I'll introduce the rest of my co-hosts. I've been playing Path of Exile since 2017. I keep trying to play new builds every time I play the game, just to get an understanding of all the different types of characters and stuff you can come across. And I have recently become very interested in UX, so that's something that I keep looking at whenever I play the game. So I'm formulating very interesting opinions on that. And yeah, I'd love to hear from who Vely is in Path of Exile.
Oh, I have been playing Path of Exile since 2012. It's actually going to be my 8-year anniversary in, I think, September, which is kind of crazy to me. And I like to play generally a mix of builds between like a lot of melee, a lot of spells, not a lot of bows. We're working towards them. You know, we're getting there. And I like to make builds. I have a couple build guides up and I stream on Twitch. I've been doing that for like a year and a half.
Awesome.
Thereabouts.
And BK, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Brittleknee. I've been playing Path of Exile for about 3 years now and streaming for around 2. I run a chill morning stream where we like to sip on coffee and chat about the game. And for the most part, when I play PoE, I like to focus on build creation and bossing primarily. And then also too, inspired by the group drops in MechWarrior Online, we also run a community day on Saturdays where we do all sorts of activities together, whether it's map device unlocks, pure breachstone rotas, or blighted maps. And I'm also pretty heavily involved and invested in the racing scene as well.
Just a little. I'm not mocking you. It's cool. I'm really impressed. And KittenCatNoodle, would you tell us quickly about yourself?
Yeah, my name's KittenCatNoodle. You can call me Noodle. I've been playing and streaming Path of Exile for about 4 years. I mostly like to make kind of weirder builds, finding out interesting mechanics and relationships between items. You might know me from Build of the Week with Arc Traps. I've done a little bit of racing, but I mostly focus on making videos about the lore in Path of Exile.
Awesome lore series, by the way. Everybody should check it out. All right, guys. So let's just kick things off with a little bit of background for the podcast and who we all are and how we got to be so invested in Path of Exile. So what leagues do you guys normally play? Like hardcore, softcore, solo self-found, private league? Tell me about it.
I like to play softcore. I like to do softcore trade league. It's just I like to do a lot of crafting, and it's just easy to get like the easiest way to get mats. The most abundant amount of players are on softcore trade, so they, you know. And if I die, then I don't feel sad about losing all that progress and all that money. You know,
relatable.
That helps too.
Yeah, I play softcore as well, especially if I'm trying to make weird builds that I'm not even sure if they'll work, like throwing traps that make totems that flame dash. That's not really a hardcore build, but it's very entertaining.
Wait, sorry, is that a real build?
Yeah, you can't do it anymore, I don't think. But yes, that was a real build, and I beat Katava, so.
You have a video of that? I need to see it.
That's a viable build right there.
Somewhere.
Okay, all right. I'm gonna have to try and find that in my own time. And BK, what about you?
I play trade softcore primarily as well, just because it's easier, as you guys said, to put builds together in an environment where, you know, things are plentiful and cheap, and then of course not dying and losing progress. I play hardcore towards the end of the league because it's something I am hoping to transition to permanently, but right now I kind of need to learn the game better. So I kind of jump off the deep end to practice and kind of learn from my rips and how to approach hardcore in the future.
Yeah, I'm about the same. I switch between softcore and hardcore, and I'm really enjoying playing in a private league environments the last couple of leagues. It's got this like really small economy, everything costs a lot differently. Like you don't have to worry about everything being rooted in the like the cost of a chaos or the cost of an assault, because you can trade for like alts are gold.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been really enjoying playing both softcore and hardcore versions of private leagues lately, and really love to have a go at some solo self-ram, just because I've been very self-reliant because of these private leagues, and kind of just been like that with the trade when I played earlier as well. But yeah, I think softcore is a really good way to learn the game and have like an understanding of how you died. Having said that, though, the Chinese realm does have a little thing that tells you how you died.
How I wish to have that tell me how I
wonder-
died. Please, sometimes.
Yeah,
I don't
wonder
know
if it would make me want to play hardcore more if I had that option.
Last time I played hardcore was I played the Z DPS League, and I died to packet loss, and I just molded my way back to softcore.
I want to
I
say,
couldn't take that loss.
yeah, with hardcore, like I actually don't think I've died to a server disconnect or anything. Like I have remarkably low ping where I am, so you know, like all of my deaths have been my own damn stupidity for like whatever it is. Like, last league was pretty brutal. I died to a lot of campaign bosses, and I felt a lot of shame.
Washington server was not really good for me. We've had a lot of packet loss situations, but there's the new server now is fantastic. It's like my ping is 15. It's so good. So good.
And BK, I feel like we've heard a little bit from the others, but what kind of builds do you like to play? Like what kind of play style or whatever do you gravitate towards?
I gravitate rather heavily towards bow and minion builds, but I've played a little bit of everything. I started Path of Exile mostly playing minion builds since it allowed me to approach the game and learn it a bit better because I was doing damage by proxy where I could then pay attention to the rest of things that were going on. And but most games that I play, I almost always tend to like migrate or gravitate towards like a ranger, bow, sniper type archetype based on like whether it's an FPS or whatever. But bows are kind of in a fairly sad state right now with like dot bows being the only viable options due to the aftermath of like the Bowmageddon. That was, what was it, 3.9? Where they effectively eradicated the entire low to mid investment elemental bow build archetype from the scene, which has all been replaced by bleed and caustic arrow and toxic rain and everything like that. And I feel like that's really unfortunate. And it's really hard to try and get those builds up and running now without just just completely dubious amounts of investment, whether it's just hard to balance in the face of losing the elemental bow crafts and the monster or bosses rather having higher elemental res and more life and all that other kind of stuff.
Yeah, I can't believe like it's literally just because you've said it now that I didn't notice. I mean, I knew the trends were going towards like any bow builds were like gonna be chaos dot type builds or miners which were running toxic rain or bloody spellcasters using bows to have 2/6 links basically.
Yep.
How did I not notice this? I'm like, oh god, I haven't played like a decent proper bow build since, I don't know, 2 years ago. Wow.
They're in a really bad place unless they undo some of what they changed back in 3.9.
Yeah, bring
The
back
last
the bow.
good bow build.
You could probably expect to need like a Watcher's Eye as well as like a lot of other certain investments to get it up off the ground because that added damage is almost necessary to make up for the fact of like just even the resistances alone were huge, not even counting the removal of key crafts and the like sort of lowering of different bow mods across the game too. Like the attack speed double damage one was like a staple for most builds, and that was effectively cut in half, I believe. So yeah.
Yep. I played a deck stacker in Legion, and it was great. It was really fun. I was looking forward to making it again. I made it again. I played it for 2 days. I spent 80 exalt making this item, these items for this character. I played for 2 days because it was just so, not only was the survivability bad, which is kind of notorious with the evasion, ranger characters anyways. They're notoriously like low health, you survive by dodging kind of thing, but it did not pack any sort of punch that it needed. And last league, it needed a punch for delirium or you were dead. It did not have it.
I think it's really sad too because it's just one of those things, like there needs to be a balance as far as like the different types of builds that are available within an archetype, and it's just really sad that it's all gravitated towards dot.
Yep.
Interesting.
Well, it doesn't help also
mean-
that, like, in general, Ranger and all of those ascendancies seem to be, like, lower than most other options. So even if you are playing a bow build, you aren't necessarily playing a Ranger. You're
gonna
probably
be a
going to play, like, a
champion.
Trickster, you
Mhm.
know?
Or
So
and like you see the bow builds come up on showcases where they're doing eye shot or Ellie hit or something like that. It's like, yep, it's a 4.8k life elemental hit bow build because
Yeah.
you have to strip away so many defenses and life nodes to click enough
Yeah.
damage to even make it viable anymore.
Mm.
So there's
Exactly.
just not enough points or ways that you can manipulate the gear to bring everything back into a proper balance and have like, I mean, it doesn't need to go to the extreme of like the Sloggernaut like elemental hit Scion, which was 9k life, 20k armor, endurance charge, Jin, Slayer, Overleach, and Ellie hit that could pack like a huge punch.
Mm.
It doesn't need to necessarily go back that far, but certainly some steps to making it more viable across a range of builds would be nice.
Yeah. The Ranger can use some love. Bow builds overall. Remember, what was it? Was it last league that were like bow league? And it definitely was.
oh, that was
not.
funny.
Yeah, that
I
was-
bought into it, and I
that
was
supposed
like,
to be last week?
oh, I have been lied to.
Whoa.
Oh.
I feel like I remember seeing the announcement about it and being like, yeah, they're not going to do it, are they?
2.9 was going to be the bow build league, but I've very affectionately called it Bowmagan because they changed Scourge Arrow. They like hit elemental hit for no reason whatsoever. They're just like you in the corner back, and they slapped it with the Reaper again for it didn't deserve it. It was already like kind of in I thought a decently balanced place. I think Mirage Archer had its less attack speed multi increased. And we lost a lot of the shaper mods. We lost the ability to enchant our bows with the percentage elemental crafts from betrayal and increased life and increased elemental resistances on bosses. Like all of that together, it was a lot. Bow League though.
But
Bow League.
Bow league, by the way.
let's seek into what was your favorite league in Path of Exile history? Who do we do you want to start with Noodle this time?
Sure. Well, personally, I think my favorite was Breach just because it was the first full league that I had played. So I technically started in Essence, but I had no idea what I was doing. So Breach was the first full league, and it was just so exciting every time I saw one of the hands. I really like a lot of the lore around it. I think nowadays Delve is my favorite, but it wasn't my favorite when it came out.
Mm.
But I still have like a soft spot for Breach. Just
All right.
Breach was a good league.
Yeah.
Good league. It was actually one of the best.
it was
For
really
sure.
exciting. It was just fun.
It does have that certain visual something that pops.
That and like just the mob density. Oh, and with Beyond and
So
Double
big.
Beyond and Triple Beyond, then it was just scary. Then you just die. But it was so fun. It was so fun.
Is
Oh yeah. It used to be like for me, top dog league, best league, and then Abyss happened, and then Incursion happened, and then I didn't play Delve sadly, but then Delirium's the best one.
really?
Hot takes.
Yeah, it's so dangerous, and that's why it's my favorite. Is because it's too dangerous. It's just you just die all the time to things that don't make any sense, and you're like, well, there it is. It's just, but the loot is so rewarding, and the density is so good that I always wanted to pop my deliriums, even if I'm like, that's gonna kill me. That's just gonna kill me. It was just I couldn't resist it. So tempting.
I'm still trying to decide for myself. I feel like I look back on Delve and I feel like I have a bigger appreciation for it now, but there's so many leagues that came through that I didn't really get to experience like everything that it had to offer. Like I didn't know about Ol and stuff until very recently, maybe like 9 months ago. I didn't even know there were bosses. Like, how did I miss that? But like there was something about going down and seeing because the loot was really, really good. I remember sort of within like 9 depth levels somebody had been dropping like gold rooms and a tabula rasa, and you're like, okay, I'm set for leveling now, and I don't. Yeah, that happened sort of in Delve, and then also in the hordes in Abyss. The little like piles on the floor, those guys were like massively good loot, and they're now really, really bad. They kind of remind me of the treasure piles in the vaults map as well. Like they used to be really good, and now they're really, really bad. Yeah, and then I think about, honestly, I know that it was really hotly contested at the time, but Synthesis, I really enjoyed the little puzzle aspect and just how that factored into the different bosses that you could interact with, and the way that you could, when you could do the mods across all the different areas before they nerfed that was really fun. So yeah, I think the only thing that let Synthesis down was the crafting aspect. That was just real confusing. Yeah, so maybe one of those three for me. What about you, BK?
To say that Delve in its essence is probably the blueprint or archetype for what I would consider a perfect league. It scaled with what was considered like normal mapping juicing policies in a like non-intrusive way, where like the quant would scale the sulfite and you would just click it. There was no click it and then click seeds and then go into the map and plant things. Like it was very non-interruptive, but still was compelling to interact with, like trying to juice your maps as much as possible to get the most amount of sulfite so you could stay in Delve for longer. The mechanic of leading the cart around itself was really approachable and easy to understand. Like there was not too much explanation needed there. And it had what I thought were kind of properly weighted rewards, just even in the normal node schedule. There were some nodes that were, pretty garbage, like the strongbox ones, but then like you could occasionally stumble across a currency node or the minion nodes, and those can sometimes be really, really nice. And then you had the cities, which always felt great to discover because of map sustain and otherwise. And then finally, on top of that, there were bosses, like real compelling, great boss fights. And then on top of all of that, it had like that scaling difficulty where you could push yourself in your build, like you can go down to try and get a challenge, or you can go sideways if you're just happy getting loot and gear and monies. And even though I kind of wish Delve scaled in different ways with like the low HP archetype, at least in softcore, it's kind of sad, that it just gets to a point where you just have to cheese, and I kind of wish that wasn't the case. I wish like more builds could approach deep delve, but I don't know really how to solve that.
I'm actually currently making a secret deep delver that's not going to be ZHP, and I'm thinking he's going to get to 2K, maybe a little past that, but after that it's just going to be a slap fest. Like after that he's not going to do it. He can't do it. They just can't survive. There's no survivability.
I'd like to
sorry.
I would say that maybe if they could adapt certain scaling properties as far as the way Delirium was with scaling the incoming damage taken, without necessarily, like, you certainly did still take pretty big hits in Delirium, especially, depending on the mods for Wave 18, 19, and 20. Or if you were doing like 80 to 100% delirious maps, like you could still get slapped off the map 100%. But it wasn't like an pass fail where you always failed no matter how many times you tried it, like you were at a certain point. So maybe in the future that would be a way to kind of open up Delve for different builds, because you can push numbers to a certain extent with some certain builds, but you only have so much EHP to take slaps.
Yeah.
Overcoming damage is a much more compelling narrative than necessarily trying to cheese damage incoming.
I agree. That's why every Delve build I've been making has been trying to do it with HP and a lot of defenses, or ES and a lot of defenses. And seeing last league, I got a what was he? A gladiator, a max block Howa gladiator to 1205. Let me just say by 1100 to 1200. No, but he did really good, but that was his limit. That was his.
I was just gonna say I've actually never gotten that deep in Delve, but Delve is the one mechanic that regardless of the league, I'm always still doing. Like every league, that's what I do. I loved fossil crafting, and actually I'd done the other two bosses, but I only saw all last league. and he was at like
Really?
200, and I got him twice. I was so confused and really excited because that was one of the random
Mhm.
goals I set for myself. But Pi, you mentioned that synthesis might be one of your favorites, and I would like to hear more about that.
Very
'Cause
controversial.
It's
no.
so okay. I hang out in different circles. No, seriously, the like feedback that I've been seeing about synthesis is very like skewed. I remember at the time hating it, but like enjoying a lot of elements about it. And yeah, like one of the things that I really liked was the puzzle. Like I think that makes me very different to most ARPG players because it seemed like obtrusive and stuff. It kind of gets in the way in the same way that seeds do, kind of. But the thing is, I really like Harvest for what it is as well, because it's a really dumbed down version of Factorio, and I'm not 5-head enough for Factorio, but I really like thinking about stuff that way. And there is this like puzzle game that I had growing up, which had like little cards on it, and they had like, you know, different colored lines that would go in different directions, and you just had to match everything up to make like a really big map. And like the synthesis layout was literally that, and the only thing that sucked about it was that you couldn't rotate your stuff.
Yes. Oh my god, if they just let us rotate, it actually would have been a pretty good league, minus the ringe from the crafting.
It's not like rotating would have stopped it randomly deciding to block the one exit that you had before you even started running through it. For me, I really loved the lore, obviously. I enjoyed that, but when they changed it halfway through and were just like, oh, you've set up this giant run that you've been working on for 2 weeks, like that's not how it works anymore. I personally think synthesis was my least favorite, so
I like what it, like conceptually what it was. I don't like the decisions that have been made around it.
That's fair.
I hate how it's been integrated into core. I'm eternally disappointed with that, because there was so much built for it, and they shoved it in a bin.
I think go ahead.
It's okay. I shouldn't do that. Go ahead.
Oh no. Oh, I was just gonna say about the rings being not completely obliterated, but pretty savagely hit is just that's a killing blow for poor synthesis.
All right. Anybody else got any least favorite leagues they want to share?
Synthesis was definitely my least favorite league, but I think the reason why I didn't like it was because unlike Delve, which took you away from like the normal playing and mapping experience, like Delve, even though it was this complete separate offshoot, at least had a completely different feel to it and different objectives and goals. Where it's like synthesis was like, yo, no, I'm going to interrupt you for like little bits of mapping, and then you're going to leave and then go do more mapping. And it's like, well, it's just mapping with extra steps. Like, I mean, I understand there's more rewards and you can stack things, but give me a different, like, reason to do this than just mapping but extra. I found that to be very infuriating, but there's a lot of things about synthesis I love, like the ability to create implicits on items and specialize was so cool, and I thought fractured items were a great step in the direction of having, like, sort of deterministic crafting outcomes before we had a system like Harvest, and I was actually really sad when fractured items didn't go core, is like they would have like a low percent drop rate in like synthesis maps to kind of like drive up the value, even if you got like a shitty synthesis unique or ring or something like that. And so I was like surprised that, but at its heart, the mapping but extra was probably the reason why I just didn't like it the most.
How do you feel about the fractures now?
I think they're properly built because with the way that they can't be used with implicits, or not, sorry, with the influence items. I think that gives them like proper weighting if you can guarantee one thing. Like, and this is meant to exist alongside the harvest crafting system. I hope they stay in some sort of way, because even if harvest goes away, or like we only get a certain outcome of harvest, I still think the fractured items for non-influenced bases for people that just need like a ring that has a really good resistances on it, or those sort of like filler rares that you need to like balance out your build, I think they're very compelling to have as a tool for crafting.
Yeah, I agree with that for sure. What about you, Pi? What was your least favorite?
I don't know. I need to look at a list. Come back to me.
All right. I'll tell you
go
mine.
first.
It's Talisman, because Talisman was a stupid. All right. Rigwald is a stupid, and Talismans are a stupid. And it was okay. So this was before, I'm pretty sure, Talisman came out, I'm pretty sure before we had a currency tab or map tab. So you had to gain up 5 talismans to get 1 T2, then 5 T2s to get 1 T3, and then 5 T3s to get Rigwald. And think about your inventory space at the time. And Rigwald was a stupid because of his bleed and his ghost or his wolf fate, and he's just terrible. He's just, and you weren't strong enough to fight Rigwald back when that came out. It was, I mean, you were, but it was hard. It was really hard. Actually, he's still hard. He's still like,
because he's awesome. He's a good boss.
He is a good boss, but getting to him so
Fair.
much.
I think Talisman as the concept is like the worst one. Just don't talk about Rigwald like that.
Now talismans are useless because annoyance, like to not have an anoint, is like that's silly. That's just silly. You're missing out on a bunch of stuff. You should get an anoint. So I feel like talismans are in a really I was really excited that they brought them back, and then Blight came along, and I'm like, well, now you're useless again. Oh, look at you. Look at you. Yeah, but no, Talisman was like, the system of it was so terrible. I had to, and you didn't, I'm 99% sure that you didn't always get a Rigwald circle. So I had to run a ledge to get a Rigwald circle again and again so I can actually put in my talismans to get a new talisman. It was so
okay, that sucks. I wasn't there for that league, but talismans are so useless, so.
Yeah, talismans are useless, and Rigwald is a good boss, but you did all this workup and then he just bled you to death. So it was a very frustrating league to go through overall.
Yeah. My experience of Talisman was like when it was in Legacy League, because that was the first league that I played. So it was basically like the TLDR of, if you haven't been playing Path of Exile, this is what's been happening. Previously on Path of Exile, all of these.
All of this stuff. Is it good? I don't know.
I remember running Talisman League Stones and being like, the fuck? What are these for?
I have like an archive tab in standard of League Stones, and I looked at it when I was going through and organizing standard a crazy person, and I was like, huh. And I swear like 80% of them were Talisman. I didn't run them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It was so rare to even get a good talisman because they're so incredibly random, right? Like even T3 talismans could have just had a bunch of terrible like life gain on hit, life regen. You're like, oh, this was T3. I worked really hard for all this regen and stun recovery.
Okay, so I want to say like a league that I didn't like that I've played in versus a league that I don't like that's been implemented in the game, right? I found Incursion to be pretty meh. Like just the experience of it at the time, I didn't know it was like on the one hand, I just feel like I find myself as it is core now avoiding it, then going and doing the temple, and it doesn't feel that bad.
Oh, as it is now.
But like I do remember like avoiding it a lot more, even when it was like the league that was happening at the time. But having said that, like Incursion mods are really good, and when they were dropping like candy from Metamorph and was it a little bit from Delirium or mostly Metamorph? I feel like Incursion mods.
No, they dropped in Delirium too.
Yeah.
They did.
Incursion mods.
Yeah,
like,
they're really good.
I don't even remember experiencing those mods as much during the actual league itself.
No, I think you would get them in the temple if you had a tier 3 room related to that specific type of mod. So like the Flame Workshop or the Lightning Workshop or whatever.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like what it had is good, but like how it played out was not fun. Like I didn't want to do it.
Yeah. I loved the league at the time. It beat Abyss for me. But now as it is, I don't really get corruption rooms very often. I'd much rather just do Nikos.
Oh, right. And
Much rather
then
just do Nikos and Xanas.
related to this is the league that I haven't played that I didn't actually know how it worked until last league. Tempest, like the thing that spins around.
Oh
you.
yeah,
And
yeah,
apparently, if
yeah.
you stand in one of them and kill stuff at the
Yep.
same time, it drops a certain type of loot. But there is
Yep.
nothing anywhere that explains that to you. So unless you played the league, you
No.
don't know that. And the only
No,
time I ever see it is like sometimes on maps, but most of the time it's in Incursion, like in the temple.
Yep.
Yeah.
Tempest was really great. Was that hard? I'm pretty sure was that a hardcore thing? Pretty sure
Maybe.
they got Tempest, right? Or did they get? Yeah, because then we got
Yeah,
Domination.
back in the day, they would
I think-
have different leagues for hardcore and softcore.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. That was a whole thing. Let me just tell you, that was a thing I never went to hardcore for. Let's just say, yeah, Beyond. When Beyond was out, that was a hardcore league, and so
What?
yeah, that was hardcore specifically.
What?
So the amount of
Seriously?
people that just died to Abixoth and stuff, I didn't get my full totem because I'm like, I'm not going to fight those bosses. Everybody's dying. The amount of malt. So I don't even think back then there was lockstep. So you had to hit your OOS every time, like constantly, every second you had to hit out of sync to make sure that you did not die. And
Wow.
so if you were out of sync for like a second, and then a boss spawned, you were just dead. You're just dead. Like there was no recovery. I would love to look for some old clips of those.
Do you nuke your clips or
'Cause it was-
not?
I did.
Ugh.
I know. But I have them saved. They're
Oh.
just, in a Google now.
Somewhere.
They're
Lots
just
of
somewhere.
scrolling. Okay. All right. We haven't really talked about this that much. So, what do you guys like about Path of Exile? Like, what drew you to Path of Exile to begin with? You want to start with Brittleknee?
Well, I'm not exactly proud to admit this, but I needed something to break my WoW addiction. And Path of Exile was really the only game that was up to the task. I really needed a content-dense, build-focused game that would break that. And I just needed something I could sink the same amount of time into that didn't have like those built-in mechanics where I felt compelled to play every single day, like the daily systems, reputation grinds, etc. And like the AP system and legendary system that was introduced in Legion and then carried over into Battle for Azeroth was just like not very good because it was even more compelling. Like if you didn't bump up your artifact power, like in playing the stuff to get your legendaries, like you sucked. And it didn't matter how good you had gotten at the game over the many years. Like if you just didn't play every day, you couldn't compete.
No.
And so I needed to step away from it. And WoW had pretty much completely lost any sort of concept of build identity at that time. It was really, really cookie cutter and watered down. And the Mythic Plus system was kind of where my focus was, which is like dungeons but extra. And it was nuanced enough with like group comp and affixes, weekly affixes. Words are hard. Affixes and like pull strats for certain dungeons, and depending on like what mods there were. But it just wasn't enough, and I just needed to kind of like step away from all of it and try and just do something else.
Ex-WoW addict here. I totally feel you.
Same. I'm clean since 2012.
I feel left out.
Don't.
Don't
That's you know
start
what?
it.
That was for
Just
the
don't.
best. That was for the best. Okay.
I got sent like a 60-day time code that I still
No.
haven't cashed in.
No. Don't ever do it. Trust me.
Okay.
Not even once.
No. Not even. I mean, listen. The new expansion's coming out, and I know people are putting on their clown makeup, thinking it's going to be so good. It's not. Okay. It's not. Just get over it right now. Let it go. Do not put on your makeup thinking it's going to be a good. It's good. It's not. It's not.
Yeah,
Don't
primarily
let it pull you back in.
I still play very, very casually, but it's just with a group of people that I've known for the better. Like, how do you throw away friendships that are 12 to 16 years old?
Exactly.
Because
Well,
there's still people that are just very, very heavily invested in the game no matter what, and like to try and like pull them over to Path of Exile is nigh impossible. So
it's
like,
actually
Sunk cost fallacy.
crazy that you mentioned that. Because I have a friend that I knew in Vanilla WoW who found my Twitch channel through recommendations, even though he never watches Path. And it's like, how has this happened after all these years? Like, I haven't talked to him in 8-10 years.
It's spooky.
Kind of, but it's like, yeah, you're right. Throwing away, you don't want to throw away those because like you can't,
Yeah,
you've
there's
actually bonded with these people, camaraderie and such.
yeah, I mean, especially back in the old school rating days, like even from like vanilla all the way through Wrath, the way rating used to be before it kind of made
Oh.
a toxic turn with like Mythic Plus stuff. Like, not
Mhm.
saying that non-toxic guilds aren't out there, but overall, Mythic difficulty kind of changed things pretty bad. But like,
Oh
I'd
yeah, I
say
was about to say
vanilla through
toxic right
Wrath, like
there.
the amount of era, like the amount of hours that you spent together and everything else, and
Mhm.
for me, it was also like a transition, like part of my life too. I was going from, high school into college into being a young adult. And so like you guys almost grew up together in the same sense too.
Yeah,
And it's just really fun to kind of like
yeah,
sit down and play casually with these people that have not now gone on, got married, had kids, but you're still like the same group of kids having fun. So I've
yeah.
really enjoyed. We do like a casual one night clear of heroic content right now, and it's just nice to shoot the shit with him.
Oh, that's nice. But now Pat's got its hooks in you, huh?
But
Yep,
It's,
I am hopelessly addicted to Path of Exile. I make no apologies for it.
mhm.
all right, Belle, are you retweeting from WoW? Is this a story for all of you?
Gambling. No, I mean, listen, Path lets me gamble like my gambling addiction wants to. Okay, I'm just like, fall it, annul it. I've lost everything. Like, that's kind of it. But the success, the feeling of hitting 2 annuls in a row and it works is so satisfying. Or finding that one item on the ground that's like, oh my God, this is like just perfect. Not for me, but maybe for somebody else. I sell it for a bunch of like, it's just so exciting. It's always got me, and personal goals. I so WoW. Did I leave WoW and join Path in 2012? Oh, I left Final Fantasy because I already left WoW before then. I was transitioning from another MMO to this, and this game just it got me so hooked. But the differences in care. I can make a witch that uses Molten Strike if I wanted to. She wouldn't be very good, but I could do it, right? Like it's possible. She would not be very good, but it's definitely possible to do that. And like other games didn't give you that kind of freedom, right? Like even some of the old games like what was it? Was it Titan Quest? Titan Quest gave you an element of freedom, but still you can only pick between these things and this much and whatever. But there's so much to experience or play with. Like, I gotta say, for the first 3 years of playing Path, I had no idea what I was doing. I had no clue.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my characters didn't make it past, like, 75, but it was just so fun. It still is very fun, but it was,
Yeah.
like, so fun. Just be like, "What does this do? What does this do? Why am I dying?" You know? And gambling, and the gamble. I love it. It's thrilling.
I can relate to that. Like, there's a lot of time where you think that you're playing the game, but the game's been playing you for most of that time.
Oh man. I knew if my builds were a success, if I could get to Act 3 Merciless and actually kill Dominus. If I could kill Dominus, I'm like, wow, this build's making it places.
Yeah.
Oh, because
he was scary.
He's actually very scary. His lightning damage is probably one of the scariest elements in the game for me, period. Lightning damage is so dangerous that I'm less scared of like degens than I am of just taking a big shock.
I never used to treat shock with the amount of respect that it is due, but I now very much love to run a grounding flask and whatever immunity I can get. There's an ascendancy that has immunity to shock. Can't remember which one it is. That's okay. I played it. That's all that matters.
It's one of them.
Coming in as a player that's only known 3.0 and beyond, I sort of have a very different outlook on PoE as a whole, and I get almost this sort of jealousy when people talk about like the before times, because as somebody that loves PoE, I kind of wish I could go back and experience it, even if it was crappy and links were stuff like essences and strong boxes.
Oh yeah.
And talisman and stuff like that. Even though like I've lived in like the league renaissance where everything has been like a pretty pretty big amount of content added each time, like whether you liked it or not. Like each league had
Yeah,
a
it's
bunch
got
to
it.
offer by comparison to what was before. But there's still like that part of me that's like when's PoE Classic? You know, can you just turn it on for a day? I just want to know what
I
it was
mean,
like.
I wish that they would do that for April Fools, because then you could roll over 6 links. 6 links, or linking anything
Wait, when
got
did
rid
they
of
make that
your
change?
armor. Huh?
The 6 link change.
I
When
don't
did
know.
they make it? Because I feel like that was
I
definitely
don't.
there when I started
Yeah,
playing.
I'm not 100% sure, but I do know it can be done. Back then, people used to do a 6 link lottery. 40 exalts if you give me your fusings and I link my item. That was the lottery, because it was so hard to link items back then.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy, but I would never. Path, I love you. I don't ever want to go back there again. I would go back for like a day for April Fools.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Yeah,
That would
that
be
would be a
super
good
fun.
April Fools.
Oh, that would be
It would be
so
like
great.
farming docks and dried lake.
Oh
Actually, I guess
God. Not
if it's Act 3, they're only going to be doing docks.
if we were gonna go way back, then there's 4 difficulties and 2 acts. Get ready to farm Fell Shrine Ruins, baby.
Oh God.
That's where you were farming. But it was like, because the temple was too scary with chaos dudes, and you couldn't really get chaos resist. So like it was really bad. Like it was not.
Wait.
No.
Okay, I remember
Yeah.
there was a period of time where chaos resistance wasn't even necessary. So there was a time before that where it was good, and then it got like made scary again.
Well, no, it was always scary, but we just got used to living without it because it was so hard to get that I think we just adjusted. And then Betrayal came out, and Chaos Res became like, I need you, Taurus, killing me. It that fled this. I'm just dying.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like everybody's just killing me. But we just kind of adjusted to not having it because it was really hard to get back then. It was
And now there's not as many different areas with chaos spitters,
Yeah.
but before, if you're
Mhm.
running through 3 difficulties and the last difficulty is the Vol Temple,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
that's where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where they are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it was really scary. But if they brought it back for a day, I would love for people to because then I appreciate the crafting system so much. Like what they've added into the game, I adore compared to what I was doing before. Like this is so good. So good. So like yeah.
Yep.
But it'd be nice to bring back the memories. The good times.
You kind of just want Reddit to see it, don't you?
Absolutely, I
Yeah,
want
yeah.
Reddit to see it. Without
Reddit, you
question,
don't
I want
know.
Reddit to see it. They hate on so much, but it's like you don't know. Not only this is one of the few game companies that actually talks on their Reddit a lot and like interacts with their fan base. Like I like a lot of games. I'm part of a lot of their subreddits. They don't actively talk on them, right? So I like this, and not only that, but they, while keeping their own integrity of what they want to do, they still listen to us and have done a lot to help, like allow us to be heard. And I downright appreciate that. That's why, like, out of all the game companies out there, I've never lost faith in Triple G. Like they've always been a pillar to me. No, that sounds ridiculous. I know that sounds ridiculous, but like I used to love Bethesda. I've lost faith. I don't want
to go into my Bethesda relationship.
Morrowind is like the pinnacle of RPGs to me. So but I've lost faith. Triple G though.
Bethesda,
even when they brought in like, go ahead.
Bethesda removed support for the game that I originally started streaming on Twitch. Like they just stopped developing.
Wait, what?
it.
Which one?
The Elder Scrolls Legends. It was their card game.
Oh, they just stopped it.
Yeah, they just stopped making it.
Nobody likes, yeah. But we're gonna put Skyrim on your fridge.
Yeah. That's the
yeah,
one.
yeah. So it makes sense of why you lose faith in a company like Bethesda, and they can gain it back. They know what they have to do.
Yep.
But Triple G has always, like, even if they've made decisions I didn't like, I've always felt like they were going in the right direction.
I like the transparency as well.
Yeah, well, that's exactly it. Like they'll tell you, no, we're not doing this because of this, right? They're just going to tell you.
Having said it, that they have mismanaged stuff and then gone and owned up to it as well.
Yeah,
Most recently,
yeah, they have.
I mean, I don't really want to talk about the stash tab thing, but they tried to own up to that, and
Yeah, there's been times historically where they've been like, we effed up,
Mhm.
and then it's amazing because then you see on like, even though you have this like level of transparency from a company that's willing to publicly admit in front of like a platform, i.e. Reddit, that is very, very critical of them, like, we fucked up and this is what happens. And then the overwhelming response is, yeah, like they just get even more angry. I'm like, well, what do you
Yeah,
want?
they do.
Transparency and ownership of mistakes, or do you just want to be angry?
yeah,
They just want to be angry.
people on the internet just want to be molding.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's talk about our builds for this league. How did your starter builds go? What did you guys play to start the league out? I'll start. Controversial. This is funny or really sad, depending on your way of seeing the world, but I'm actually still playing the same build, and it's not because I'm enjoying it. I tried to do the hipster thing and play the Chaos Dot. It was a Chaos Slinger and now Chaos Dot, but instead of picking Trickster, I picked a Cultist, and I've just been struggling for a month now. For a month. So yeah, I just want it to hit level 90 so I can eat it off a cliff and play something else.
Are you there yet?
I'm on 89, so I'm close.
Oh my god, you're right there.
I'm real close. And to put a little bit of perspective in, I really have not been playing that much this league. I took quite a bit of a break from Path of Exile and streaming. I've been like avidly watching and participating, just not experiencing it directly, you know, like. But it's to the point where I go a bit all in for like 2-3 leagues and then have to have a bit more of a breather before I can really enjoy the next league. And I feel that the next league is going to be pretty off the chains, the way that Gigi and Chris was talking about in Bayclast and all that. Like, yeah, I'm kind of like mentally preparing for that. Yeah.
Didn't they say it's going to be huge? They said it was going to be huge, right? Like.
They just think it's they're just I think what happened and what he was talking about in Bayclast was like, this is the idea, and they realized that they could do it really, really quickly and seamlessly, so they sort of just really developed it big, I guess. But we don't know, right? We'll find out when we see the trailer and all that.
Uber serious, maybe?
I want to see an Uber serious that involves having the other conks in the room, like.
Yes. Oh, that'd be so dangerous. But yes, let's
just
do
like.
it.
Also,
I gotta make it chaotic.
I gotta say, like, Al Hasmin in the trailer for Conquerors of the Atlas has mods, like has ads in his boss room with him. Can we have that back, please? I would love.
No, he's too fast.
He's too fast. Too furious.
Absolutely bested.
He can't be bested.
I want to fill my potions up again.
No potions for you. You better kill him in 3 seconds or you're running around in a circle. That's kind of it. Honestly, that's kind of it. You don't kill him in 3 seconds. You're like, I guess I'm running in circles until the middle is open
if there's
again.
the middle snakes, yeah, I just basically run around because he's right. He is faster.
He is fast. He's very fast.
Yeah.
The real question is, when do we get his hideout as the thing?
Ooh.
I want that so bad.
Yeah.
God.
Triangles are really not used enough.
Hideouts would be dope.
Redeemers would be nice too, just because she has a great view.
Yeah, but if you put the waypoint at the bottom.
The waypoint.
Did you guys all disable the rotation thing?
Yep.
I hate it
every single time I went up them stairs. I hated it.
It makes me dizzy.
Yeah, why is it like that? I remember some people in my chat were saying, oh, you just have baby eyes. No, I'm not alone in making me dizzy, man. It makes us dizzy. Maybe I do have baby eyes, but we all do that.
No, I think it's just the way that I don't know, man.
It's like it was jarring when it locked into place. It was like
and you can't use a movement skill either, or it's going to be really weird.
Oh, Lord.
Imagine there weren't invisible walls. You just like dash off the edge. Phew.
Yeah. Oh my god, I would love that. It would be terrible, but I would laugh. I would laugh at that death.
I want a cliff death, actually. Like, there's so many invisible walls. I'm very good at killing myself by running off stuff by accident. It just makes some great clips. Oh god, it was so entertaining for me to watch anyway. All right, yeah. So I want to say my chaos spellslinger versus chaos dot occultist bro, woman thing. She's tried so many different skills, different types of life. We haven't actually got the gear to go CI, although I think that would help a little. But at the moment, I'm trying wand and shield with a bunch of spell block and attack block, which is not great. I'm not enjoying it really. I want to throw it into a ravine. And so that's my story.
What will you play next?
EQ Jug, or I really liked Blade Blast Assassin. I'm curious about. I haven't played an assassin before, so I just kind of want to give that a go. Lily's version, like Lily's guide at the beginning of the league was pretty good. I was pretty impressed, so I was gonna have a look at that and then see if I could way, or if it's already perfect, maybe. Yeah. What about you guys? How many builds have we been through this?
I have 2, but I'm currently having to play my starter because I've been trying to craft for the second character, and the seeds hate me. But I had kind of a rocky start too because I played a build. My friend Stidge made this really interesting build that focuses on Herald of Purity minions, but it also has spider minions and carry-on golems, so it's a lot of fizz damage. And they were using the cluster jewels. They give you Pure Agony used to give you an additional Sentinel of Purity, so you could get up to 10 of the minions. But they changed that and didn't mention it in the patch notes. So I started my build and started buying all the stuff for it. And then when I put on Pure Agony and checked it on PODB, I was like, what's this? Like, you can no longer have additional Sentinels, which was annoying. But it's still a fine build. Like, you can get other damage stuff for it. But then the next character, I dropped a new unique called the Retaliation Charm, which basically gives you extra damage with hits and ailments when you're blind and also blinds other things. So I crafted like a weapon that has hits can't be evaded and got second sight, so from the Brutal Restraint Timeless Jewel. And now like I can hit things and I'm not blind, but I've been crafting a weapon and I think I've augmented it with Fizz 20 to 22 times now and still haven't hit above tier 4% increased. It's rough. And so I'm just like continuously getting seeds, and I still need to want to get Tailwind on my boots, and for some reason I can only get Reforge with crits. So yeah, I'm still on the starter, but both of my characters are above level 90 and the seeds hate me. So that's how it's been.
Yeah, that crit mod is worth like 2 exalt. They're just so rare. They're just so incredible. Same with speed modifiers, man. They're just
I put a Fortune Blossom and like a crafting flower next to my like tier 2 blues, and I had probably 2 different rounds with at least 4 to 8 seeds planted. Still, not a single ad. No.
Yeah.
So that's cool. She said sarcastically.
That's cool.
Vel, how's your starter going? Or
well,
build you're playing now?
I played 2 builds so far. I have almost all the stuff for my secret delver that I've been working on. My top secret delver that I've been slowly trickling out little bits of information for, But the first one was my first time since before ascendancies were added in playing a long neck. So I was a long neck guardian, low life. My first low life character, first guardian, and my first time playing Stormbrands, and I loved it so much that I put in the effort to make a guide for it because it was so fun. But then I realized it's really hard to explain how to transition to low life. So that's been a thing. But it's like with I know that they changed the way. I know people are not happy about the changes with brands. But personally, I like casting it more because I feel like I'm doing something, right? I feel like I'm really involved. Before you could just brand recall and it refreshed the duration. It didn't matter, right? You just like, oh, I just walk and recall, walk, recall, right? But now I feel like I'm doing something, and I think it's Holy Conquest, which activates my brand and attaches to another person, so it feels like the chain is still really long. It's really nice. It's really satisfying to play, and the MTX looks so good. So so I was like, ooh, every time I'm in a dark area, I'm like, look at all this red. It looks very cool. So that was like, I played that one. I loved it so much. I think I played it for like 2.5 weeks, and then I made a champion hollow palm ground slam character, and I might love him more than Stormbrand because Vol ground slam can stun Cirrus out of his 4-way beams. So you know how he's about to do that 4-way beam? You hit Vol ground slam, and he's like, "Oh, what?" Like you ruin him, and then he doesn't know what to do, and he doesn't go through a lot of other transitions because you kind of just messed up his whole deal. He was like, the last 3 times I did it, he didn't even go into like the circle phase because he was like, I'm just confused. He was just warping and then trying to beam me because he
Do you
didn't
have a
like.
guide for this one? Because that sounds
I'm
great.
That sounds
I'm about
really
to have
fun.
a guide for this one.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
so
interested.
fun. It's so fun, and it's not overly expensive to make. So I have a from last league a hollow palm ice crash, and that was like super. I thought that was gonna be my favorite builds. But now the ground slam's edging it out solely because you get 3 charges of Vol ground slam. It hits like the entire area and it stuns 99% of bosses. So it just feels super like I love it. I love it. But now I got a deep delve, and this guy, he's gonna get clapped. He does not have a lot of chaos resist, so he's not, he can't deep delve. He can't do the delving. Not deep. 200s are fine. Anything more than that. Yeah. 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 He's good. I like him. What about you, Brittle?
Yeah.
I started on a long neck as well. It's the least played class. I think I leveled a Hierophant once with like Freezy Pulse totems to see if I liked the archetype. Went nope, and never played a Templar ever again until this league. And I did Penance Brand. I started on Penance Brand just because it was really compelling. It was like a mobile divine ire, and I really liked the idea of that.
Yeah.
Because there was previously, I don't do a lot of spellcaster builds in general, but like Divine Ire definitely like hit that sort of niche of this feels really fun kinetically to play, as well as the numbers being there. And I just love conversion abuse anyway, so Trickster all the way. So I was, yeah, it just seemed to be really cool. And then I went Mind Over Matter with all the different mana scaling that Hierophant has to offer, and it did exactly what it's supposed to, which is to get me to tier 16 maps and help me complete my atlas and get all my watchstones and stuff. It has really garbage gear too. Like it's still in most of the stuff that I bought or crafted for it in like my low 60s and 70s. So I think I could definitely push it further if I wanted to go back and do like spend some time on it and kind of crafted like a good wand and like a good shield and get more mana on different pieces of my gear, because mana is damage when you're doing the Archmage stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really good little solid starter. I mean, the plan I kind of went with Swift Brand for clear and then went for Conk Effect on the bosses. So there was like the periods of downtime, which is why I think a lot of people end up going Inquisitor Ignite with Stormfire instead, because you have like the boom and then the dot. Whereas like non-Ignite Storm or Penance Brand is just like successive booms with periods of time. You're just like, yeah. And you have to either like dodge around. So you're just kind of
You're like, what now?
it just feels really weird. But for the most part, then the boom finally happens and you see the entire, health bar chunk, and you're like, oh, all right, I like this. So it's like I think it's one of those temperament things. Like it's a decent build. The numbers are there. The gear can be scaled, but it's definitely a lot of people aren't going to like that downtime. So I'm 50-50 on making a guide for it.
Yeah.
And the build that I've been working on now is a project that I kind of put together last league. I was with the the state of the bow builds that I kind of touched on earlier. My solution to still wanting to play elemental bow builds is to play mines instead with bow skills. So I've been doing a lot of like exploration of like what used to be bow archetypes, but in minor form, because if you wash it through like all the different multipliers for mines, you can kind of almost reach the numbers you used to be able to. And so last league, I did a split arrow elemental miner where I used the Secrets of Suffering cluster so that I could inflict brittle, scorch, and sapped because I needed to do a build with brittle in it. I've
Of
been
course.
trying to for so long, and Gale Sight is just such a bad helmet. So I finally had my excuse to. But at the same time that I theory crafted that build, I theory crafted the build that I'm working on now, which is bleed mines.
That sounds so
And
crazy.
it's one of those kind of neat builds because you get to take advantage of a lot of things that miners don't usually have in their toolkit. Because it is a dot, or most of the damage is being done by a dot, and dots can only be attributed to you. You get to take advantage of elusive on kill, onslaught on kill, phasing on kill, all of the on kill conditionals, including charges as well. So if you have like the necklace where you have the 10% chance to gain whatever charge on kill too, like easy charge generation, easy onslaught, easy phase, easy elusive. And it's really, really neat to take advantage of all of that. And then because there is, even though we're not a gladiator or a trickster or whatever these classes are that have a lot of like dot multi and dot scaling in general, mines have historically high amounts of access to crit and crit multi, which we wash through with perfect agony because it then scales any sort of multiplier that you have for crit as a dot multiplier half of its value. So you get all of this scaling that you wouldn't normally have, but it suddenly works because, you can click that one node and then all of that damage gets turned into bleeds.
Yeah,
And so
I've been
really,
watching
really
this
fun.
one.
A lot of like really gear specific stuff, which is why it was like a perfect project for this league with how specific
Yeah.
gear can be.
Mhm.
Because before trying to awaken craft, like Elder Shaper gloves hit 2 different level 20 gems, and then also, P dot multi is a tough order. But with the crafting that you can do, like this definitely will not have a guide. This is more just like self exploration at this point.
Yeah.
I just want to see how far I can take this idea. Because it was a lot more disgusting prior to 3.10, but they redid a lot of the shadow tree, so the old thread of hope isn't as viable. But the thread of hope that the build used to use had 11 passives within its ring. It was just
Whoa. That's
it was a
probably like,
very efficient thread of hope.
yeah,
But even
shockingly
then,
efficient.
yeah, even then it's a lot of fun. And then we're playing so it's split arrow bleeds for clear, and then explosive arrow actually for the single target, because EA is actually a fantastic vector with its multipliers for bleeds. And because of
Really?
the fact that we can go minefield support and throw out 5 mines at a time, you can bypass the really insane attack speed requirements of EA, because it's like normally you're trying to stack as many fuses on a target as possible, so you scale like duration
Mhm.
and attack speed, and sometimes you need like crazy things to pull it off, like insanity gloves with faster attacks and then flat attack speed on, like all sorts of crazy things that you have to go through normally, and then also be like a gladiator with, like the charges and all that other stuff. But we can completely bypass it with minefield support, which isn't everyone's favorite, but it gets the job done effectively, and you can still have anywhere between like a 3 to 8 million bleed DPS, and that's not total bleed damage, like just the bleed DPS on it at 20 fuses.
This is a very cool project.
It is.
Hmm?
It's
The
been a
one,
lot of my gear is still like relatively crap. There's so many upgrades. I've got to awaken craft like a 1 ring so I can get the bleed as well as the assassin's mark on hit. So it's got to be a warlord shaper ring, and the other one's just going to be a warlord ring that we hopefully hit like the bleed modifier and multi on. The amulet is close, but not quite there yet, and I still need to craft my helmet.
this league has just been the best for the odd projects. It's just that's one thing. It's just been the best for like this Delver. Any other league, his gear is mirror worthy. There's no way I'd be able to create it. But this league, let's do this. We'll see what we can do. It's just crazy. It's exciting for that reason.
Feel very vanilla, just trying to builds that I haven't played before.
I wasn't sure about Stormbrand because I've never done it. And it actually turned out really, really well. It really changed the game when I went low life. It was not doing the best, and then once I went low life and was able to put on so many more auras, it was like, wow, this was good. This was worth it.
Yeah, I feel like what I've learned so far from this chaos cultist is that it won't it benefits from going low life because a cultist lends itself to going low life, but the build itself doesn't need to function well. And just the more time I spend on it, the more I'm like, should have rerolled a trickster. But I'm like 200 plus deaths in, and however many like days worth of playtime, and I just want it. Yeah,
just want to see it. Just want to see it make it to the top.
Yeah, I mean, like I know how I want it to go. I just can't get it to do it. All right, shall we talk a little bit about Harvest?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, let's start with the impressions of Harvest at launch versus where it is now. Belle, you want to start?
That's are you sure? Okay. So Harvest at the start, I'm going to be honest. It was a whole mold. Like the whole week I was just molding. I didn't want to set up my garden. Because I didn't think I could make it perfect. I still don't think it's perfect. It bothers me and my OCD greatly that it doesn't line up properly with things. But that's fine. That's fine. Because I wasn't really interacting with it much other than T1 seeds for the first week, I managed to save up a stockpile and thought, like, this is really exciting. I have a lot of seeds, but now I only have yellows. The other 2 seeds are dropping like barely ever, and it's made me trade to buy seeds. I'm in the buying seed phase because I am really enjoying the crafting. I just want to craft cool things while I have the chance to craft cool things.
Yeah.
Basically. Right? But yeah, the seed issue, they did up it and that was nice. And I eventually set up my garden and it's functional. And that's good.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I love. Do I think the crafting is absolutely ridiculously overpowered? Yes. And but do I want to experience it every league going forward? Yeah, a little, sort of a little bit, like just a little, yeah. Yeah. I'm very on the fence about it. Overall, it's been okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's been okay.
Been okay.
I will say though, snakes should not have allies cannot die because snakes do not move, and nor should they have proximity bubbles because again, they don't move. And if you have 5 snakes packed together from your blue seeds and they have allies cannot die and a bubble, good luck.
Yeah, that sounds terrifying.
Yep. That was one of the things I molded today really hard because of snakes. And their allies, and allies cannot die snakes. Yep. So there's that. But yeah.
Who's next? Noodle?
Yeah, I was a little on the fence with the league announcement. I was like, okay, crafting sounds cool, but also gardening, and space management. Like, I'm not good at organizing my stash. Now you want me to organize an entire garden? Like, all right, fine. And personally, like, now I'm pretty like okay with it because I enjoy crafting, but it's not really my biggest thing. but I am interested in the crafting, and I do think if they could integrate some of the deterministic, like remove and add specifically into something else in the game, I'd be interested. But realizing that the seeds don't guarantee the actual craft, they just guarantee the type around it.
Mm.
I was like, oh, well, I'm not going to craft anything cool because my RNG is terrible.
Mm.
And that has been pretty true.
Yep, same. Big same on the terrible RNG. Might say what I think. I on the first like 2 days or so, I don't think I've ever leveled so slowly in my life, because I think I spent several hours just sort of in the garden trying to think and understand it, and not the crafting side of things, just the how does it work, what are the different techs involved, like the collectors versus the storage tanks versus the station that seemed way far away to be able to have a single order crafting station versus like 50 or whatever other people have, right? At this point, that just like 1800 life force seemed like a lot to me. But it, you know, like I remember like leveling, it felt pretty amazing because you could just go in and make any wand or whatever pretty decent. But when it came to sort of like the end game version of it, it's just been a bit more to think about, I guess. And so yeah, I think there is a lot of huge discussion points around how harvest works, especially like the seeds side versus the what crafting is available from it. But for me personally, I haven't experienced the OP side yet.
Just
My RNG's
just
been trash.
yeah. The RNG has been, I think, in this league, you know, a lot of the problem is everybody's making good items, so items aren't generally selling for a lot unless you can craft them, manipulate them in a way, or if they have like stats that you couldn't get, you know, easily. And it's that's mhm,
Yeah, what did you
definitely
what did you make
frustrating.
of it, Brittleknee?
Well, the whole thing's a bit fiddly in it.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot of
Very fiddly.
I like the idea of an expanded crafting system. I think it's been needed for some time. And I don't know if this is something that needs to be as deterministic as it is currently. I don't think so, but I think there's a lot to learn from the crafting that everyone's doing, whether it's having more access to certain deterministic factors at a lower scale, or perhaps I don't know, like working it into existing crafting systems or what have you. But overall, I've liked the idea that I can sort of pace out my league based on projects, and I think that's really good, especially for somebody who does play Path of Exile for every day of the league. I don't really migrate to other games. I play them in my off time, but I primarily, or not primarily, I only stream PoE. So I like the idea of having these weird projects, and then in addition to that, I'm going to be reapproaching and like kind of renewing two rather old build guides too that are at this point like a year and a half old that kind of need a freshening up, and it's a perfect league to do that because of the pacing. But the crafting, there's a balance here because everyone has access to making explodey plus curse crit chest beasts, and they're very easy and they're hard to sell. But there's also enough of like the 1 in 3, 2 in 17, 1 in 9 sort of crafts that happen that are still creating very, very valuable items. And those are, scaled appropriately in difficulty for their price. But I think people are making what used to sell, but everyone can do so easily now and not selling it and feeling like they don't have access to the roots of currency that they had before,
Like
because they're not
Tailwind
special
Elusive.
anymore.
Like the
And so,
Tailwind Elusive, yeah. Sorry.
yeah, Tailwind Elusive is a very good example of that as well, and And so I think I'm really ambivalent about the garden, to be honest. There's parts of it that I like, but for the most part, it's like I don't really like mechanics. I kind of feel like it's a synthesis thing where it's like this mapping but extra kind of situation where it's just taking me away from the game that I'm normally playing, and it's like trying to force me and pigeonhole me into these other sorts of encounters without it being uniquely special. And I think there maybe could have been, I don't know if we want to say like development done, but I don't know.
You feel
I'm
like
I'm
you're
really,
spending too long in your garden? Like, I feel
and
like
I
I'm
think
spending
like
too long.
the where the seed caches are and like kind of just contribute to that even more. Like they're always in the middle of a map, which just
Mhm.
interrupts your map's flow to begin with too. So I feel like if you had like maybe each of the or each of the bosses of each map could have been like, possessed by the plant, and then like when you kill the boss, the seed pod opens, you get the seeds, you can go into the like even if it had been at the end of the map, I feel like that would have been like more compelling than having it
Mhm.
right in the middle where you get there and then you have to like figure out what to do, and like you're in there for and then you pop out and like you kind of wipe your eyes and you're like Robin Williams, like what year is it? Because you spent so
Yes.
Where
long
am
in
I?
your garden and then like you have this other map that you rolled like 45 minutes ago, but you've
Yeah.
been fiddling around
Yeah.
entirely.
Yeah.
And
That
so like the
definitely captures it.
pacing, yeah, like the pacing of it feels a really bit weird. The sort of like Factorio style gardening layouts is kind of weird, and then like the crafting is it's really neat, but also kind of weird too.
It feels
So I think it's like
so
one.
non-Path of Exile to me. Like, I love that they experiment with stuff and they throw something at the game and then see if it sticks. And that's the feeling of
Mhm.
this. It's like we took Factorio, threw it at the game and tried to see if it would stick. It bothers me greatly that it's called Harvest and that the words like garden and grove are in it when everything that's in there is mechanical.
Construct additional pylons.
Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, out there, calm down. We don't need more pilots.
I just want to
Oh.
know who was planning this league and is like, all right, you have to have these grid formations. And for the general plot of this garden, we're going to have random stairs and little areas that will not fit a good amount of things in them next to each other. So you're like, oh, I'm going to put 3 of my tier 1 plots. Oh, wait, they won't fit. I
Yeah.
can't put anything else.
Yeah.
Who designed this garden? It bothers me so much that things
realism.
don't fit.
It's
Realism, real gardens don't,
No, it's
they have
floating in the
stairs.
air and there's staircases. It's not real.
okay, it's gardening. If it kind of reminds me of like there's like parts in the world where their farms are tiered because they can't have like a big plain. They literally
Like rice fields and stuff, the ones that are
yeah.
like tiered down.
This kind of reminds me of that, but even so, like I don't feel like the word fertilizer hasn't come up once, but we're planting seeds. Why?
We're distributing juice. We're juicing all over our seeds.
Yeah, but like,
That's-
why
that's
not
what
call
it is.
condensed life force fertilizer?
They should, because it gets a little. Yeah, at first I was like, "What is this life force? I don't have enough storage for
Like,
it."
you don't
And I didn't.
understand that they're different things.
Oh, for my first week, I got no T2 seeds, so I didn't know what a disperser was.
Mm.
I didn't understand why I wasn't getting other seeds. I was very confused. It just contributed to my mold. Yeah, and then the second week, I think they upped the the list of seeds near the end of the first
Yeah.
week, and then I was like, oh, now I'm getting T2s, and so it's good.
Yeah.
It was also weird that she gives you a disperser and doesn't explain what it is at all.
And there's
So I
no
got
quest
one.
tracking around it, or like the
Yeah.
implementation of it. I was so confused by that. Like all
Yeah.
of
Oh,
the
I'm gonna
different
disperse.
items, it doesn't prompt you to talk
Like-
to her. She's always got an exclamation mark over her head, even though she doesn't have anything to say to you. It's very confusing.
You're just waiting.
She reminds me
Just
of
wants to
Navali.
talk.
Every time you get a silver coin, Navali exclamation mark.
I feel like as a whole, like if we look back over the last couple of like leagues that we have these continued leagues where there's a challenge to the speed meta, whether it's like Blight or now Harvest, even though you can do Speedy Boy stuff with Harvest and Delirium and all that other kind of stuff. Like it reminds me a lot of, like when you're driving and you've been on like on a country road for forever and you're coming up on the first stoplight in like a year of driving, it feels like, and they have those little like warning bumps in the road. I feel like these links that we are getting are almost like these like warning lights, or we're trying to driving along and it's like da 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 blight, da 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 da. Now we have
Just, like,
harvest,
not
and
to
like
name
I'm
any
wondering
names,
if
but
you
blight.
is that soft light that we haven't seen in so long. So I wonder if they're challenging our pacing in addition to sort of poking at different things. So it's like performance issues on the server side and calculation side, like we saw in Blight League, the kind of exploration of like crafting metas as it exists now. And I feel like for the most part, Harvest could go, parts of it could go core independent of the garden. I think the crafting system can exist currently by splitting it down the middle and giving a lot of like the odds and outcomes stuff over to perhaps developing a new fossil or two that increase certain like if you put this one fossil in there with like a with a jagged, then it makes those fizz modifiers more likely, kind of like the reforges that we have currently.
Yeah.
And then there's like this
Oh,
other
that'd be
series of crafts like the lock suffixes, reroll prefixes, and those sorts of things that already lend extremely well to bestiary because a lot of the crafting in there is very similar, like the suffix to prefix, beast, etc. So I feel like they could, if they wanted to, implement some of this already, but I feel like we're gonna have to wait and see. Like I feel like the big crafting rework is gonna come in with BOE 2.
I have a question. How many, because you brought up bestiary, how many of you guys have actively ran your beast this league?
For more than flasks?
Yeah. Not at all, right? There's no time.
I
There's
think
just no
suffix
I
time.
did
prefix.
run one to get a lure.
The suffix to prefix, isn't it?
Yeah, because of like just the mods that don't have tags. And so sometimes getting those off is like a 50-50. If I can turn this,
If I can just flip this mana.
take this intellect, this like 9 intellect I don't freaking need and can't get rid of, then maybe I can turn it into a prefix that I can then remove with like remove lightning or whatever. So I've been doing a lot of, like that kind of stuff to bypass the dead mod tags where there aren't anything, but other than that, not so much.
Yeah. I feel bestiary's just got left, like in the same way that Alva's just been left behind. Bestiary is just getting left behind because it's like, I have no time for you. I'm in the garden. I'm in the garden. I have no time. I'm just gardening here, Or I got to do delve because Nico's always fun. That's, he's just a fun guy.
Yeah.
He's just, yeah, but it's like delve or garden.
That is kind of interesting that like a lot of the reforge options, which obviously are the most common in the garden, that's a lot of it is basically what fossils are doing, right? So I wonder if there would be a way to implement the more desirable crafting options, namely targeted annulments and targeted augments that wouldn't completely be overpowered, because I think that's the concern, right? Is that those are obviously the most desirable because as Chris said on Bay Class, the reason he doesn't want crafting bench to be that powerful is because it's supposed to kind of be a band-aid, not like a item maker necessarily. And so I think a lot of people are using those targeting crafts more so than the things similar to fossils because it is like an item creator. Like you can make an item out of nothing with that.
Basically, I feel like Harvest is also super similar to the way that essences work as far as crafting is concerned. You do get that one guaranteed tag, and a lot of the time the rolls aren't terrible with them, especially like the higher tier ones. Like if Harvest got swallowed by essences and fossils in like a real interesting kind of way, I'd be real satisfied.
Yeah,
but
I still use essences, I forget the name, I think it's greed, whatever the life ones are, the super high ones, so like shrieking. If I get a 6 link, like I'll just roll a bunch of those on it for guaranteed high life.
I've spent 60 plus essences this league just trying to get T2 int and dodge spell hits on boots. That's the only 2 things I wanted. I could work with everything else. It took me over 60 essences just to get 2 mods.
Wow.
2 mods. So I would like for them to make it a little, if they added it into essences or maybe a little bit into bestiary or something, that would be really nice. I mean, maybe this might sound controversial because I love it, but maybe targeted nulls are too strong because they really are very, very nice. But maybe if they just did like lightning to lightning or non-lightning to lightning, things like that, like maybe that would make it that's a good, because there's still a chance, okay, if I get maybe I can turn this 1 to 5 lightning damage into lightning resist, and then like, scrub it of its suffixes or whatever, right? So you still have a chance to make something good while putting in more effort than what the garden is. Like the garden's effort, because you're like, oh, I gotta disperse. Do I have enough juice? What is this craft? Do I need to save it in the station? Oh, it's kind of good. Do I need anything? Like there's a lot. You're always like, I feel like when I go in the garden, I'm there for 20 minutes just thinking of stuff.
I feel like I have to make a list of things to do when I leave it, so that when I go back, I know where I was up to, and then new list at the end of that gardening session. And like, am I doing this every map or every 3 maps?
Almost.
Like,
yeah,
it's a long list.
It's a lot.
What I wanted to say about going core, I guess it's not going core. Like, we're not really onto that topic, but the way that I've completely forgotten. Gone.
Okay. Sorry, it happens.
It's okay, I'll come back to it. All right.
Brittle, were you gonna say something a
Yeah.
little bit ago?
Well, my brain's farting.
Usually if I don't, like, I usually have been taking notes here, like if there's something and I'm just sort of like waiting for a pause, but I didn't take a note this time, so I forgot it.
Oh no.
Oh no, double forget.
Okay, we were talking about bestiary. And
I know what I was gonna say. So my concern about the way that we're hypothetically crafting harvest going core or designing or whatever, like we're all throwing around these different ways, and my like very controversial notion of swallowing it with other leagues of crafting things, I am very skeptical as to whether they would actually consider doing that because of how they treated cluster jewels. I was so mad
that they changed stuff without being transparent in the patch notes. They changed too many things.
What really bothers me though is that the entire argument for keeping cluster jewels dropping from Delirium is that's the flavor of Delirium. Like Delirium has to, like every league has to have its own unique like items that are unique to that league.
It takes 2 sentences to patch it. Just make, like, when they introduce it, they could have been like, and find these special jewels that augment your reality and allow you to change the passive tree in ways before, and like, will you go mad from options or
Right.
like embrace the possibilities? Like, it's all it freaking took. You just needed to like sprinkle on some salt, like some lore, like Salt Bay, to get like
yeah,
Delirium and cluster jewels to make sense, but they're like, nah.
No, but the reason that it bothers me though is because like everybody knows from playing cluster jewels that there is nothing that makes them Delirium except for the fact that they came during Delirium. And
no, there's no connection.
Arguably,
and to have put that much work into notables and then be like, oh yeah, it's a league thing, it's a passive tree thing.
Yeah. So if you take the GGG attitude towards that, and Chris spoke on this when he talked to Ziggy about it, he was like, I was in favor of them just going to the core game until the office made this argument to me, and then I was persuaded to the other side. That sets a precedent that makes me think that harvest crafting has to stay harvest somehow, and it really gives me a bit of fear about how the game's gonna actually integrate it because of that attitude.
If we
just have league bloat, like each time we have these sort of like synthesis, delve, etc. leagues that add entire extra areas to the game, like where the game gets bigger, it's more overwhelming and all this other kind of stuff. And there is like talks about retiring certain league aspects in the Fast, and we know now that
Beyond is gonna take it.
Beyond, etc. But I don't know, like I feel like we need more leagues sort of like Delirium that kind of try to branch all of the different pieces together rather than just create more branches on the tree.
Yeah.
In the future, especially before they're able to kind of like really polish things up and snip and trim what they need to with like the launch of PoE, either to make like lore timelines and all this other kind of stuff like fit because of the similar in-game before both of them. However, they're going to solve that problem.
I wonder
I feel like there's going to be a lot of like league, trimming at that point in time. But in the meantime, I don't know. I like getting new content, but sometimes enough is enough.
I
That's
was just
probably
gonna
not
say,
going to be a popular opinion, but I think retiring things like tormented spirits in favor of other league mechanics would be awesome. Like,
yep.
Oh, please. Yes. Tormented. Talisman. Be gone. Out of here. I'm sorry, Triple G. Like, I know at the time, but like, Torment used to be good. But now, be gone. Torment used to be good.
I mean, they've made it so now with like sextant combinations and all this other kind of stuff, like ghosts are good. They make you drop crap loads of scarabs, and scarabs are great, right? It's like there's nothing that they can add to the game that will make me instantly angry once I see one of those green dudes. I just hate them so much.
Is that a martyr? Is that a martyr?
Yeah, like, listen for the wet squishy sounds and then run for your life.
Yep. Yeah, the ghosts are there's definitely a lot of league bloat. But like look what they did with synthesis. They took it out entirely. And same with talisman. They took it out entirely and then they implemented them later severely reduced. So if we hate it that much, there is a chance that they would, like the community as a whole, they would just strip it out entirely until they can find a meaningful way to bring it back into the game that we would like. Compare like right now,
the
I think the
mold.
biggest thing with all crafting leagues is that it interrupts the flow of our game. Like delve was the best one for not interrupting the flow of game. You could craft if you wanted, you could delve if you wanted, you do maps to get more delve juice to go down and get cool stuff. Like it just was really good and get crafting mats while you're at it. But now it's like that was their best chance. That was a good one.
There's an appropriate balance between delve because you can either go for the fossils and use them, or you can just like go down further and get more valuable things and then sell that to buy your gear.
Yep.
Like people had the option to engage or disengage from the crafting aspect of it, and there's less of a choice with harvest. And I think that's probably why it's been particularly
Yeah.
divisive. Because there's people that just want to grind and then buy gear, and that's all they really care about.
Well, even like delve cities is one of the best way to get maps if you're running low on maps. So it's like a cyclical, like it works into itself.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh man, those maps are so good, especially at the beginning of a league. Oh,
Map drops has just been really nerfed to this league too, so it's definitely like relying on other mechanics in order to get them again.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed a drop in the amount of maps you get?
I don't know
Feel
if it's
it.
actually dropped or if it's just comparing to the absolute loot explosion that was Delirium.
I had to
No,
prioritize
even
Delve to make sure that I was in the eye level 80, 81, 82, like to prioritize that because the push from low tiers to high tiers for those final watchstones after Awakening 5 kind of took that little bit of extra. Like I full clear temples and I did push down in Delve to make sure that I was hitting cities in order to help with that overall push into the final watchstones. Because I mean, like going around helps to a point, but I kind of feel like we're back at the point where it was before, where you kind of had to engage in extra mechanics in order to routinely access it. I mean, certain harvest crafts helped a lot. So like whenever I get the split the map thing, I throw a 16 in there and get a whole bunch of 15s, kind of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's not as noticeable once you have like your nice atlas with everything's 14 to 16 and the bonus completion and everything is pretty good and awakening levels high, but the progress to get to that point feels pretty inhibited if you're not trading maps.
Yeah, early red progression is struggle bus for sure.
Yeah, my yellow to red progression was definitely noticeably more difficult. Just didn't feel like I got any red maps. I was running like tier 10s over and over and over. It's like, all right.
I would like, I had to really tune my atlas and I'm still sort of going through this, but like it's very possible to finish a rotation of watchstones where it's 3 watchstones and not drop a 13 or a 14, and you need the 14 in order to drop the 4 watchstone 14s. So you can finish all of the rotations and still not have a map pool for the next step. Yeah. Been a big interesting struggle, and then like when you combine my like build that dies a lot with that, it's just been a poor experience.
It's like the struggle.
Yeah, and I was like, this might be the league that I actually do solo self-found again. And the pain of trying to build my atlas from the beginning is deterring me greatly.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you
I
guys?
almost wish.
You both spoke at the
What'd you
same
say?
We all spoke at the same time.
I was just gonna say solo self-found, like this is the perfect league in terms of crafting, but yeah, if you're having trouble with map progression, then it's gonna be, worse.
Oh.
Oh no.
Or Xana will be really nice to you. Or Xana will love you.
No.
Hey, sometimes.
Oh no.
Sometimes she loves you.
I'm clearing her. Like, I'm refreshing her inventory every single time, and I've seen a tier 11 and maybe a tier 12.
Wow.
Yes.
Good job, Xana.
Like, I
You're so
can't
good to
tell
us.
you, my RNG has dried up. It's just
It's dried up the well. The well of RNG is gone.
it's
He's mad at you if you even remotely
Just-
suggest that Xana might be the baddie, and then here she is treating Pi like crap. I mean, come on.
Actually, yep.
Dude,
there
I
we go.
haven't even
That's
gone in on
villain.
her for like her being the endgame boss before PoE2. Like, I'm listening to everyone else and sort of like giggling in the background about it, but like I haven't actually said that or said that I think that, although it could be like a
She
pretty
knows.
decent decision. But she's like that bitch.
Yeah, no, she knows. She knows what you need, and she's like, I ain't giving it to you. You're gonna have to work. You're gonna have to work for it. Yeah, she's terrible. I mean, she was good to me this league, so I imagine next league she's gonna be terrible to me because now I've talked shit. Now I've talked shit.
Yeah.
I've messed up. But the other league, she was terrible, so she knows what she did. It was warranted.
She knows
She
what
was
she
warranted.
did.
She knows what she did. All right. She has left me high and dry with 0 cortexes for too long. I actually got 1 this league for my first time ever. And then I failed it to desync, and I can't even.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm just. That happened weeks ago, and it just hits me hard. It's like
Oh,
a
Lord.
punch right in the face.
It's okay if you're not really fine. We
I'm
understand.
not really fine, actually. What if it was a bottled faith? I bet it was. I bet you. Of course. Oh no. Oh. So yeah, Harvest needs fun, but it's also. Do you guys feel like your goals, like you meet them, but you're not satisfied with them? Because it's like
I'd like to
that
meet
was
them
easy.
I'd like to
first.
meet my goals.
You like to meet-
Same.
I mean, really, there's not a single craft that you put on. You're like, oh, there it is. There it is.
No, 22, and it's just a tier 1 fizz. It shouldn't be this hard.
It should not be that hard. I can't even believe. Isn't the
It's an
isn't
eye
the
level
crafted
83
better?
base. What?
You know what? Like, the way that it feels.
Isn't the
'cause
crafted better?
if it feels
No,
like
because I crafted all the attack stuff first, and so it's bleed and attack, and this is only physical mod left, so everything else would potentially mess with the other mods, which are all like tier 1.
Yeah.
And then this
Yeah.
one, the highest I've gotten is tier 4, and I'm like, I should have just stayed with that. And then I was like, ooh, I saved up like 6 more, and now I have fizz leached as mana, and I have regrets.
Oh no. Oh no. Just need more fizz to fizz and more fizz and fizz. And just a little
I'm
more fizz.
fizzing all of the fizz. I have so much fizz. Okay.
I actually today I broke down and I bought life seeds for the first time. I bought just 200 life seeds to try to get life to life. And I
That's been
still
my struggle this thing too.
Yeah.
Yeah, my chest being second only. I can remove out as much as I want, and I'm trying to hit like tier 1, tier 2 flat on my chest, and it's like 13, 9, 27, 32, 9, 54,
Hybrid.
7, and you're like, like at this point I would take 90. Like tier 4, just give it to me. Like I'm okay with it. Please.
Yeah.
It's been like 17, 18 add remove lives in, and it's just I'm basically defeated at this point. I give up.
Oh no.
And then I gotta do it again on my gloves, except there's 2 spots. So I have to hit a life and then og life and hope I hit hybrid. Yay.
Yeah.
Yay!
Hybrid crafts are my crafting experiment.
Yeah.
Every time I think I've got something good and then I press Alt and I'm like, ooh, really it is it?
If it wasn't for me and my one friend working on our items together, I don't think we'd have enough crafts to finish up one of them.
Yeah.
Let alone, because you got the crafts, all right, let me bring it to you. Oh, you got the crafts, all right, bring it up. You know what I mean? Like that's basically it. We're just desperately trying to share each other's like crafts to make the dreams come true. Really.
There's a part
I've
of
bought some crafts.
the part of me that thinks that it should definitely be self-sufficient. You shouldn't need to rely on trading or having like someone else sharing their inventory with you in order for it to function, not optimally, but like just function good.
Or even to have like the seeds themselves have more of a specific targeting. So if like tier 1 is like reforging, right, which is the least desirable, maybe you have a tier 2 version that is like the remove add or the randomize and like those, instead of just every time you harvest getting reforge and just
Hey, you want to reforge?
No, I mean, like, I see reforge and then I just condense it. Like, that's like the entire thing is just condensed.
Yeah,
These are good for starting items with relativities towards something that you're trying to target.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can hit 2 stuff and get an item close enough and then kind of finish it from there. Other stuff takes like very specific crafting, whether it's like blocking for certain outcomes, then auging with others, or awaken crafting and then going from there. I mean, like, I don't think like the reforge system is completely useless. I think it's great for starting stuff, but there comes a point where you just don't need it anymore.
What I wonder
it was great for leveling, and I'm sure for solo self-found, but yeah, now it's just juice. It's juice.
Yeah.
But for the way that like reforging works, they're basically chaos, right? Like it's chaos spam.
Yep.
I never crafted with chaos. Like before. Is that
when you
a
ran out
trait
of
thing?
milk and scanners, you just in a rage just started hitting an item with chaos orbs.
Please.
Yeah, like I've always kept them for something else.
Oh yeah.
Because it takes a perfectly good rare.
Completely random. There's no reason to do chaos spam unless you're angry because you didn't hit it with your alts.
Yeah.
Unless we're going to classic Poe. But no. There's like, I've had friends that are like, oh my god, I just chaos spam this, and I'm like, get out. Because it never works like that for me. It's just a lie. It's like, and I got 5 life. That's usually how it works. Yeah. But I do use, like, when there's speed modifiers, I have a pair of eye level 86 two-tones that I'm just like, come on, two-tones, roll good, please. They have not yet, but I dream. That's
Well, we could keep talking about harvest, but I feel like that's probably something that we want to get into with a bunch of different like specific points. And this might be a really good time to mention that we're gonna do a live stream in 2 weeks.
Yes.
So we might pause the conversation there and get ready for our live stream podcast in 2 weeks. So thank you everybody for joining, and please make sure that if you enjoyed it, please show up to the next one.